So part of my life I've been in the high-tech world. And when I saw the $400 million valuation, I thought, oh, what's the revenue? Because venture capitalists look at high-tech startups that are growing really fast. And they say, oh, they're making $10 million, they're worth about $50 million. And so you can get about 5 times revenue for your valuation. That's pretty good. That's really good for a high-growth startup. Providence Water is not a high-growth startup. It makes approximately $70 million per year. In 2017, it was 72 million, 71.7 million. So you're talking about a 5.5 to 6x multiple on revenue for this entity. So I thought that number doesn't make any sense. What are the other moving parts? So you're making about 72 million in revenue. You've got about 50 to 60 million dollars in expenses. And so I thought, well, gee, what if they just raise the rates 5%? Because I don't think we can sustain much more than a 5% rate increase. That would be okay to solve a big problem. So that gets us about $3.6 million a year. And you could raise the rates 5%, or maybe you could cut the costs 5%, cutting your costs from, what, 56 to like $53 million a year, which would be pretty good. I think it's pretty hard to cut your costs because you got union workers and you're committing to keeping them, right? But at 5%, you got $3.6 million a year. That's like $160 million over 50 years. It's only worth $36 million. Okay? So in a fairly conservative scenario, this deal is worth $36 million, not $400 million. So what does it take to get to $400 million? You have to produce $32.7 million in expense savings or revenue increases. You can't cut your ways to that. You can't increase the rates to get to that. So sort of where I'm really nervous about this deal is I think we're spending a lot of time trying to make a deal that could only net $40 million, or in a really sunny day, $80 million, but not anything that's near what we think is required to help plug the $900 million unfunded liability, or the other liability, which is the $1.2 billion OPEB that nobody seems to talk about. So if you could sort of comment on what the real valuation is, not what some people came in and said, I don't know how you come to $400 million.
That's a very good question. So the valuation of 400 plus million, that was a valuation of only the pipes on the ground. So it wasn't a valuation of the revenue stream of the water system.
Right.
That's a very good point.
And the land. You're not selling it.
Right, exactly. So it wasn't based on revenue.
Right, it was based upon the infrastructure, so yeah, I don't know.
Right, so unless you take the pipes out of the ground and sell them to a neighboring town, you're not getting $400 million.
So I don't know how to further explain it, but
I mean, this didn't come out of thin air. We've had outside counsel that has experience dealing with infrastructure partnerships all over the country, abroad. So again, and these numbers are just rough. You talk about a transaction. There is no transaction. We're just modeling a transaction.
What Mayor just said is right. It's the pipes in the ground that are worth $400 million. It's the water in the basin. It's the land in Situate.
Yeah, I think that can
So please provide a real answer.
that's a legitimate question.
Question of the day.
Yep. And so where does the valuation come from? So as Nicole has mentioned a number of times, there is no transaction in place right now. And this only makes sense to us, so just on the financial standpoint, it only makes sense for us if it nets us $300, $400, maybe $500 million. It very well might be the case that if this goes forward, right, if we get state enabling legislation, if we go through an RFP, if we get bids back, I mean, it's very possible that the bids come back at 100 million, 50 million, 150 million, not enough to solve our problem. So that's a very legitimate question. We don't know. We just don't know.